A week ago Sunday, I had a buyer call me and said, I have about a week to basically buy a property. Wednesday, I had them under contract with a big farm that I had listed. So a 1031 deferred tax exchange, it's basically rolling forward any gains you might have in a specific property to a similar investment type property. It need not be like kind in the sense land for land, but it has to be held for investment purposes. And if you reinvest all of the proceeds and you follow all the requirements, then you can basically defer said gain until the future, or ultimately never if you utilize a stepped up basis the IRS allows. To qualify for a 1031 deferred tax exchange, the property has to be held for investment purposes and it needs to be redeployed into another asset that is held for investment purposes. So, for example, if you had an apartment complex and you wanted to invest in farmland, that's perfectly permissible under the IRS regulations. There's a few requirements that are necessary that people don't always seem to understand or utilize, but a personal residence is excluded. You cannot do that. However, you can do a rental property or verbal home or something held out for rental and subsequently convert that to personal use and then potentially defer the gains on the relinquished asset. And some of the other requirements is during the entire sale process, you cannot have access to the monies, so they have to be held at a qualified intermediary, which means you do not get the proceeds, you do not see the proceeds, you ultimately do not have control over the proceeds until the subsequent purchase is done. Many people work with a number of qualified intermediaries and their tax accountant and their attorneys to make sure that they follow these regulations. Generally speaking, we encourage people to be proactive and start looking for investment properties prior to the closing, because as of the date of closing of the relinquished property, you have 45 days to identify properties. That being said, you can identify up to 3 properties regardless of the dollar amount, and then after that you can identify 4 if certain requirements are met. Those are strict deadlines, and they're usually that declaration is held with a qualified intermediary. Once that occurs, then you have 180 days from the date of closing to conduct or consummate the transaction for the target property. So to the extent you can be more proactive about finding your replacement property, it behooves you, because then you're not limited to the number of choices or under the gun to purchase something that may or may not fit your needs. The main reason to do a deferred tax exchange is to defer the taxes to a future date. That future date may be when you sell said property. The other important factor considered is if you structure your estate right, you can have it such that that property gets a stepped up basis upon your death, and then basically the taxes are eliminated and the beneficiaries receive a new valuation or basis as of the valuation or appraisal on the date of your passing. So there's a number of ways to defer the taxes or ultimately eliminate said taxes. The benefits of working with somebody experienced in the 1031 environment is they have a knowledge base that's superior to other agents. They have resources, both qualified intermediaries and accountants and attorneys that are well versed in the requirements. They also can help facilitate to make sure you incorporate the proper language in the sale and purchase, because there are specific requirements that need to be met according to the IRS regulations. I have a number of people that naturally migrate to me because of my CPA background. People do thorough research, vet it out, and see, oh, this guy's not only a real estate agent, he is a CPA, so they trust that designation. In fact, I took 2 properties pending last week, both exchange buyers. The cumulative of those transactions was about $5 million. It's a tremendous resource to have a CPA on staff that are well versed in the requirements. The other benefits of working with somebody is there's alternative mechanisms to do this. There's reverse exchanges where you purchase a target property first and subsequently close on the relinquished property. There's deferred sales trust. There's a number of other tools that most agents aren't aware of or utilize to the benefit of their clients. So having somebody well versed is going to add value ultimately to the transaction.